Okay, so hi everyone. Now we're back with the next session, and in this one, we're going to talk about service. Okay, we talked about pods, deployment, and now we talk about service. Okay, so right now we can run an application using deployments, but there is a very big problem. What exactly is that problem? So, if pod restarts, its IP address changes. So that's like a big problem. Okay, whenever a pod restarts, its IP address changes. And on top of it, pods are not permanent and they can restart or be replaced at any time. Okay, so pods IP changes, multiple pods exist, user can't track pods. Okay, so these are the problem. So basically, pods are designed to be replaced at any time. Okay, so basically pods are designed to be replaced at any time. Now we talk about service. Okay, service is a very stable entry point. So service, I'm just going to show you a little bit about it on the website as well, but first we talk a bit here. So it's a stable entry point. An application. Okay, what a service does, first of all, it gives a stable IP. Second one, the most important, it also load balances the traffic. And the last one is it automatically tracks pods. So I'm going to show you how basically it works. So here we have like 1, 2, 3. These are user 1, user 2, and user 3. Okay, and then you have like external load balancer here, that is like this. Okay, and then here we have a cluster. So from user 1 it goes to and fourth. So here we have another arrow like this, and this basically is our service. Okay, and then you have here pod, again a pod, and then again we have a pod. Okay, so they also are 2 and fourth, and this here is also a pod, that is other app. Okay, so let's just now understand this whole. So basically, user, this one, talks to service, not pods. Okay, so this one is again external load balancer. So user talks to service, talks to service, creates a deployment, and then kubectl, using kubectl we're going to create a deployment, and then we will also expose this deployment with the service, and then I will tell you in detail what exactly I'm trying to mean. Okay, so let's just clear this quickly, and then we start here kubectl create deployment so deployment.apps created, so kubectl get pods. So as you can see, our deployment is web app. Okay, so we have a new one here, as you can see, web app. Okay, so now what we are going to do is we are going to expose the deployment with a service. Okay, and what exactly do I mean by that? So here, if I go, I'll show you what exactly I mean. So as you can see, uh, here if I talk about, there we have a pod. Okay, so for example like this, and here we have a service that is basically like SVC. We give like a short form, and we have another pod here. Okay, so now we basically have a deployment here. So this is like a deployment, and then we have a replica set that contains these pods. So basically 3 pods are there. So exposing the deployment with a service. This is a service, and then this is going to be exposed. This deployment, this whole deployment is going to be exposed on this service. Okay, so as you can see here, and now what exactly it does is, so for example, we have traffic coming on different ports. So like okay, and this one. So all of them are basically port, 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 and then here we have different virtual machine. So for example, this VM, VM, and VM, and then I have like a K8 cluster. So we also call it as K8. So here I have made a service. So we define the service with SVC, and here we have different pods. So all these, this deployment is exposed over this service. Okay, so what you can see from this, that each and every port, so like this, is calling out the service, not the deployment directly. So each and every port is calling out, each and every port is calling out the service. Okay, so I'm gonna name port 3 or 30,000 something. So the port number can be anything. So from this, what we learn is that port is calling out service, not deployment or not the pods directly. So this is what exposing the deployment on service means. Okay, so now let's create a service. We just created a deployment, and now let's create a service. So kubectl expose deployment web app type as equals to node port dash dash port is equals to 80, and then press enter. So as you can see, service web app is exposed now. So expose creates a service. As you can see, we have used expose, and then node port. When we talk about node port, it accesses on the node, and port 80 is the apps port. I'm going to explain you again this code. I'm going to write it for you. So what we used is kubectl expose deployment web app dash dash type as equals to node port dash 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 port is equals to 80. Okay, so what expose does is creates a service. And now we talk about the node port. So what node port does is opens access on the node. And the last one, port 80, is apps port. Okay, so now we are going to verify the service. kubectl get services. Okay, so as you can see, the last one is this, the one that we just created. So we just basically did, we used the command, this one, kubectl expose deployment web app type node port 80. So port 80 is the app's port, node port opens the access on the node, and expose creates a service. So now we have the service name in front of us, that is web app. Okay, so now let's just access the service that we just created. Okay, and we need to access the application, and in order to use it, we're going to type in minikube service and the web app, and I press enter. So as you can see, it's gonna open the service for me in a URL. So as you can see, welcome to Nginx. If you see this page, Nginx web server is successfully installed and working. Further configuration is required. Okay, for online documentation and support, please refer to nginx.org. So if you see here, namespace, name, target port, URL, this. So right now the service is running. Okay, so what we just studied and what we just learned about is how to create service, how to expose them, and how to browse through them. Okay, I'll show you like the different service types as well. So if I just stop this, and I'm just gonna go back a bit. kubectl get service. So as you can see, the last one is web app and the type is node port. Okay, so let's just learn more about the different types. As you can see here, we have different types in front of you from the past services that I've made. Some is ClusterIP, some is LoadBalancer. Okay, and so we have different types of services that we are going to basically look through. Okay, so let's just get back to our canvas, and here I'm going to tell you the different types of services. Okay, so there are total 4 types of services, and we will learn more about the difference. Okay, so what happens is, right now for this one we are using node port. Okay, so let's just talk about the ClusterIP first. So the ClusterIP looks something like this. Here we have the service, and here we have the traffic, cluster, internal IP address, and then you have 1, 2, 3 different pods, and then this is Kubernetes cluster, and then you have node port. So this one is ClusterIP, and now we're talking about node port, the one that we're using at the moment. So we have one node, another node, both of them connected to a service, connected to different pods, and the traffic goes like this. Okay, so this whole completely is the Kubernetes cluster. So we are going to dive deep into all these types of services in the upcoming sessions, and what exactly is load balancer. Okay, so I'm just going to tell you like the difference between all of them. So if we talk about the ClusterIP, it is for internal only use, and it is like the default type. And then we talk about the node port. It exposes app externally, learning and testing. It is mainly used for learning and testing. Now we talk about the load balancer. this one, this service, it is mainly used among the cloud providers. Okay, so like mainly used in cloud environments where we have like big companies. And for now, NodePort is perfect because we are learning at the moment. And in the production, this is mainly handled by Ingress, that we will learn more in the upcoming sessions. So now we're going to talk about how basically service finds pods. Okay, so if we talk about a service one, how it is going to find different pods. So this is pod 1, this is pod 2, and then we have pod 3. So what happens is it basically figures out different pods using basically tracks using labels. Okay, so what happens is if we have a service and we have different pods, so here we have like a selector, and then we talk about app prod. Okay, so what it does is, if the selector, I'm going to create another image for you. So if you have a service that is connected to 2 pods, and then you have another service that is connected to another pod. So selector application pod, and this is selector application test. So service basically doesn't track pods by name, it tracks the pods by labels. Okay, so I'm just going to show you how is basically, what exactly do I mean. So if you go here, kubectl describe service web app. So here the things that we need to see is selector. So what we say is, you can see the selector is app as equals to web app. So I'm just gonna break it down for you. So from the screen, what we see is selector is app web app. Okay, and then we talk about the label. As you can see, the selector and the label, both of them are same. Okay, so what happens is any pod with the right label automatically becomes a part of the service. So do you understand, like each and every pod has a label, and that's how service identifies it. Okay, and any pod that has a right label will automatically become a part of the service. So having the right label is very important. Okay, so now we talk about, we can also delete the service. And how do we do that? Generally the command that we use is the same, kubectl delete service, and then we go web app, and the service is deleted. And then I'm going to delete the deployment as well. There you go, the deployment is deleted. And if we go kubectl get all, so as you can see, we have everything. So in this whole video, we talked about what is a service, why it is required, and how does it work. Now we know how and why service is made and what exactly it does. So in the upcoming videos, we are going to talk about the Kubernetes loop, and also we're also going to talk about the ingress, and we also discuss different service types. So thank you so much for this video. I'll see you in the next one.